Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on September 10th, 2025. We are definitely heading into a black swan event. There can be no doubt about that. The U.S. government shut down on October 1st, and there's no sign that it's going to reopen. September 30th is the fiscal year end for the United States Corporation, and it looks like this time they really didn't get the money to continue. Now, what I know from previous experience is that when there is a default at the international level, they're given 15 days to come up with the money. And that means that if I am right about this, starting sometime next week, the U.S. military will no longer be receiving their paychecks, and it will be game over for the current system. I'm hoping this is going to happen, and we're trying to set up a war council to deal with the transition away from the United States Corporation and to something that, once again, restores power to the people. Now, to understand how important this is, I want you to take a look at this picture here. This is the Trump cabinet meeting with the heads of the Chabad Lubavitch organization. These people are not Jews. They worship Satan. Their founder, Schneerson, has repeatedly said they want to kill everybody who does not worship Satan. They're going to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. The fact that the Trump cabinet is in on this is a sign that they need to be removed, and that's why the White Hats have placed a 100-kilogram bounty on each person in that photograph. And my understanding is that if these people who are trying to kill you, your friends, and your family are removed, arrested, and brought to justice, that the reward can be collected at any BRICS nation embassy, or perhaps or Taiwan or China. In other words, they are trying to kill us all, so they have to be removed. And the fact that Trump is in that picture tells you everything. Now, the other thing is, that right now, Donald Trump is talking about sending Tomahawk missiles to Russia. Okay? Now, that is nothing more than an attempt to start World War III, because if Tomahawk missiles are sent to Russia, that means only Pentagon officials, U.S. military people, have the ability to carry such attacks out. And that means that they're going to try to start World War III, which is exactly what Chabad wants. And the other thing that the military and the intelligence community need to understand is that the civilian governments in the West are not working for the people. They are controlled by this cult through a combination of blackmail and bribery. Now, I want you to watch this clip to see exactly, what the situation is with the U.S. Senate.
Ian Carroll is one of the internet's top conspiracy analysts. His critics label him an anti-Semite spreading false information about Israel, but to others he is a fearless journalist that speaks on what some perceive as an extremely strong Zionist pressure on our government. Here's what he had to say.
There are 100 U.S. senators. Last year, 93 out of 100 U.S. senators were people whose campaigns had been funded by Israel, AIPAC, and the Israel lobby. 93 out of 100 U.S. senators were taking money from a group that represents a foreign government and foreign interests in order to operate our government on behalf of someone else. And they all work here, in this building.
This is Representative Ro Khanna from California, and he does not take AIPAC money according to the website Track AIPAC. Here's what he had to say.
It's too much. I mean, it's too much. All these super PACs and PACs are too much. I don't take a dime of PAC money, lobbyist money, since I've been in Congress. And I don't believe in super PACs. And so I can vote my conscience. But if you have people who have a particular point of view, in AIPAC's case, they're basically whatever Netanyahu does is right. That's their point of view. And they're saying, okay, if you don't take that view, we may come after you.
So you can see that 93 out of 100 senators do not work for the American people. They work for Benjamin Netanyahu, who is himself a Satanist and is trying to kill people, which is, I mean, the majority of the people. This is just not right. This is not a system of government. This is a system of slavery. Now, I understand that there is an attempt by Trump to, impose military law, and he wants to use U.S. troops to go after his opponents in the United States. And, to his credit, he is going after Antifa and George Soros and all these, terror groups financed by the Zionists or the Satanists, and that's a good thing. But it's not, it's not enough just to go after your enemies. The whole thing has to be cleaned up, and until we see the Epstein stuff out there, this is not going to work. And the other thing is that there's nothing he can do about the United States being bankrupt. He's not going to be able to extort enough money from Europe or Japan or anywhere else to pay for what he needs to pay for. It's just not going to happen. The whole thing has to be shut down. And as I've said before, the White Hats are standing by with an offer to finance a jubilee in the United States. That means all debt, public and private, will be written off, and there will be a redistribution of assets. All the money that was stolen from the people through central bank fraud will be returned. It should be several $100,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. So it's good that this thing falls apart. It should have happened a long time ago, but that is what we're going to do now. And there is no other choice. We're going through a very tough transition, but at the end of the day, everyone will be freed from Babylonian debt slavery. That's what we're working on. Now, the other thing that people need to be aware of is that there is evidence now we really are dealing with a rogue artificial intelligence. If you look at the huge amounts of money being spent on AI, on these mega databases by companies like Oracle, NVIDIA, and ChatGPT, you'd think that there's a business plan behind that. But no, the data shows that 95% of companies are unable to make money from AI. In fact, it's now turning out that AI is actually causing productivity to fall because lazy employees use AI to make reports that look plausible, but because AI cannot check facts, it's not connected to reality, it ends up causing more work for coworkers. And right now, this AI thing has gone so far, and this internet stuff has gone so far that 70% of content produced on the internet now is created by AIs, and 60% of communications is bots talking to each other. This is not a good way to use our energy or our money, to have bots talking to each other, and it needs to be removed from the system. They need to unplug all this. I mean, I've been watching some documentaries, and the AI is really awful. Like I was watching a documentary on the Battle of Waterloo, and they had these AI images with cannons firing from the wrong end. Or, they had one on Kennedy where they featured this orange-haired young guy who wasn't Kennedy yet, because AI is unable to distinguish realities. What I'm trying to say is that the one thing that has been booming in the United States, the super high stock market valuations of most of these high-tech companies, is a hallucination. It's one of the biggest bubbles in history, and it is about to burst. The other thing is that France is very close to revolution. I think they lost their 5th prime minister in 2 years, and support for Emmanuel Macron is now at 14%, which is a record low for any French president. And Emmanuel Macron is a front for Jean-Michel de Rothschild. And my French intelligence sources tell me in the satanic hierarchy he is above Donald Trump or any of these other people. So if France falls and Macron is either arrested or flees the country, that will be the first domino. But when it falls, that will result in blackmailed pedophiles like Keir Starmer in the UK, Mark Carney in Canada, the Merz in Germany. All these people will fall, and I'm believing that Trump is not going to last either. That's what I'm hearing. Now, again, like all of you, or most of you, I supported the Trump who was elected in January to clean up the deep state, and he was trying very hard to do that, but he has not been seen since June. So the Trump we're seeing now is a Chabad puppet, not the original Trump from the U.S. Space Force, the white hat Trump. I haven't seen him, but you can tell that the current Trump is compromised because he was there with Alec Bourla of Pfizer promising $70 billion U.S. tax money to make mRNA vaccines in the United States, even though it's been proven they've killed millions of people. Bourla should be facing war crimes charges, not, being treated as a hero. And the other thing is, I want you to take a look at this video from Finland showing a journalist being arrested for asking his president a question.
President Stubb, is it appropriate for Finland to continue arms purchases from Israel, a country that has been accused of genocide by the UN and ICJ? You have a comment, Mr. President? No comment. That's our president, ladies and gentlemen. Kyllä, että tulee putkareissu ja sakkoa tosta. Hei, sulla ei ollut mieleni omassa. Mikä se on? Minulla ei ole. Ei ole sille on oma paikka. Sulla kerro. Mulla ei ollut mieleni osua kyllä. Millä perusteella on saanut Suomeen? Mä kerroin hänelle askelmerkille, että mielenilmaisua ei sallita. Tällä hän päästi jatkaa, että ulkona mielenosoitukselle osoitetaan paikka. Sinäkin voit jatkaa matkaa.
This is fascism. And right now they're trying to pass laws in Canada, the UK, Germany, the US, where if you write something they don't like on the internet, they can arrest you, they can cut you off. They're trying very hard to prevent us from realizing the truth, which is that we're ruled by Satan worshippers who use a system of Babylonian debt slavery. This system is now collapsing. So, I hear the White Hats are going to be holding a war council, and they're going to find concrete ways to move in Mar-a-Lago and arrest all the people there, and move into the Senate and arrest the people there. All the traitors need to be arrested. Now, the other thing is, the breaking news is that Trump did not get the Nobel Prize. It was a Venezuelan opposition leader. So that means that a decision has been made that, Trump cannot continue. He's not viable. So that's a very important thing that's happened. So definitely something big is in the pipeline, and I think the coming week is going to be historical. Let's see what happens, but there will be war councils. There will be a lot of stuff going on in the background. Right now, there are heavy-duty back-channel communications between the U.S. military, British intelligence, and the Russians. But the Chinese are out of the loop in this. This is going to be a Western solution to the Western problems, and then we can deal with China. But first, the West needs to remove its satanic infection, and that's what's going on. Okay, well, that's about what I have to say for myself this week. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. We have our first question for today. Does the Commonwealth exist? If so, who is in control of the Commonwealth, and how can you help us reform this?
The Commonwealth is still very strong, and it's built on a network of personal connections at high levels, and I'm hearing that there's going to be a serious reform in the British royal family, but the key to the Commonwealth becoming viable again is to make sure that India and other Commonwealth members are full participants, because when it existed in the past, it was a sort of a white man's club with white men at the top, and no one from India or somewhere else could rise to the top of the Commonwealth. That is now changing so that it will be possible to have someone from India or Belize, or any other Commonwealth country run the organization, and they have historical links. They're linked by the English language. They have sports meetings and lots of personal communications, and it wasn't really an evil organization, although it had its flaws. And I think the Commonwealth will become increasingly important. And behind the scenes, the Commonwealth has been allied with China to do the Belt and Road Initiative and other peaceful things for the good of the planet. So I'm a great supporter of the Commonwealth, and I'm hoping it will be reformed so that it continues to stay as a major force for friendship and good relations between nations. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Trump is visiting Japan on October 27th. The objective may be stripping money from Japan as the U.S. is bankrupt. Nonetheless, Japan has no money to save U.S. bankruptcy, as the agriculture bank Nochu has lost a huge amount of money in the U.S. bond market, and I cannot imagine any significant amount of money is left in Japan. Inform us why Trump is coming to Japan, and if Trump's objective is money to avoid U.S. bankruptcy, where is this money in Japan?
Well, yeah, I mean, he is going to come to try to extort money. I don't know if he'll be around until then. I'm hoping not. But, the thing with the Japan Agricultural Bank is a real crime. You see, the Norinchukin, the Japanese Agricultural Bank, is actually a real bank in the sense that it's 100% deposit based. It's all its money is actual deposits. And most U.S. banks, more than 90% of what they lend is not backed by deposits. It's just money they put on their books out of nothing. So what happened was they used pressure on Norinchukin, probably threatened to kill their management or something, to force them to hand over money, which is, disguised as bond losses. And then Norinchukin, to recoup that, raised the price of rice drastically in Japan, which caused a popular revolt against the Japanese government. And, the government, I mean, when people's food is impacted, that's when the, sleeping masses wake up, because that's something that they're not going to stand. So I guarantee you, even if he does come, he'll leave empty-handed, because Japan has nothing to hand over. The same is true of Europe. Germany's economy is 20% smaller than it was in 2018 because it's been forced to buy expensive oil and gas from the United States, and the Europeans do not have the 1.3 trillion to give the U.S. that they think. So I doubt he'll come, but if he does, he'll leave empty-handed, and hopefully, if he does show up, they'll arrest him for war crimes. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Can you clarify if the military brass attended that meeting that was called? You originally said in your Monday newsletter they wouldn't attend because it was possibly a trap. Real Raw News is stating that about 250 were requested to take polygraph tests to prove if they were loyal to Trump. I know RRN isn't 100% to be trusted, but it's an interesting take since you initially said it might be a trap. If they did decide to go, what was the actual purpose?
Well, I did talk to people about that, and the conclusion was that they made sure that everybody would be safe and that nobody would be killed before attending. But the speech that Trump made and then that Hegseth made was very badly received. But right now, a large part of the military is still following Trump because he's their nominal commander-in-chief, but a growing group is aware that the real Trump has been replaced by a fake and that their commander-in-chief is not there. But there is a group that is still trying to start or use a threat to start World War III in order to get more money to keep the U.S. government going, but I don't think it's going to work. So what will probably happen is when the military stop getting their paychecks, they'll finally wake up. But I do know there's been a split with the Five Eyes, and so that right now at the highest level of the intelligence community, they're no longer with Trump and they're negotiating with Russia for Ukraine peace. And also Israel has basically lost the war in Gaza and Egypt has moved in. So we'll see. But there is still a group in the military that probably has some sort of compromat held against them that is still behind Trump. That's the reality right now. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Wasn't 9/11 and Iraq thing all connected with Bush and Tony Blair? The same Tony Blair that hasn't gone away despite the links. Instead, he's made a, quote, sir, for what it's worth. Now they're handing him out Disney tickets, like Disney tickets these days. Instead of being somewhere else more deserving, Blair has allegedly snagged the being in charge of Gaza role. Have you heard anything about this?
What I heard is the reason Tony Blair was not executed for his pedophile crimes and other things is that he secretly provided a lot of testimony about the cabal and Epstein Island and all that kind of stuff. But there's no way on earth that he's going to be made governor of Gaza. As I mentioned earlier, the Egyptians are actually in there now. Israel's actually lost the war. The only thing we're seeing is fake news on our screens, but that's not the reality on the ground in Israel. And I'm sure that Israel is about to be replaced by the multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious state of Judea. And Blair will have no role in that. Next question.
Hi, Ben. We have our last question for today. Another earthquake has hit the Philippines. This is the second earthquake this month. Is this some form of super weapon, or is it natural?
I'd have to look into that, but as a general rule, if it's an artificial earthquake, you have to look at the seismograph because it has a telltale sign. It starts with a big bang and then boom, 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 like that. Whereas if it's natural, it goes boom, 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 boom. And the other thing is you have to look at where it was, because if the earthquake started around a military base, then you can tell it was some kind of weapons attack. I'll have to look into that, but you can do your own research by looking for the seismograph and seeing if there's a military base around the epicenter. Okay, well, that's what I have to say this week, but like I say, we're going to try behind the scenes to set up a war council and put an end to this nightmare because it's gone on way too long. And I think next week we'll see a lot of historical stuff. And I'm hearing that from my Pentagon sources too. They say something big is coming.